Welcome, Recovery Warrior family. Jay Riz here. If you guys don't know who I am an alcoholic in recovery. If you happen to be scrolling through YouTube and you hit on my channel, I ask brothers and sisters to be on my channel. They tell the wonderful lives of being in recovery now. You know, we've all been through the ringer. People that have been on my show, brothers and sisters, we've been through the ringer. We had that, they call it the change. You know, if you guys are out there in addiction, you know what's going on. We had that change, and now we're just living our wonderful lives in recovery, and we're trying to pass that message of hope to the still struggling addict and alcoholic who's out there, which might be you. Thank you to you guys who show me support. There is new merch available. Hit me up for that. Drop a comment down below, or hit me up on the Recovery Warrior page. I do have shirts. I have stickers. It's getting going. So, like I said, just drop a comment and let me know what's going on. If you guys need a shirt, they're on my Facebook page, Recovery Warrior. And thank you guys for support. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to my brother Vinny here.
Thank you. I didn't pray, so would you pray with me?
Yeah, let's pray.
Have a moment of silence for the addict, the alcoholic, for anyone that's suffering out there, followed by the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Alright, so my name's Vinny. I'm an addict, probably an alcoholic too, most likely an alcoholic. My brain never really cared what I put in my body, so as a result of that, I had to look for something to help me with my problem, which was, drinking and using. And so, I'm from Mandaree, North Dakota. I grew up on Fort Berthold Indian Reservation. Grew up in an alcoholic household. My mom drank a lot when I was a kid. And so I dealt with a lot of that growing up, seeing that, from just the people that lived there, and so I thought, that was what my life was supposed to be like. I didn't really know any other way. I didn't really know that it wasn't, I thought it was abnormal for people to not drink and to use, and so growing up, that's what I idolized. That's what I thought I wanted to do with my life. I joke around sometimes because there's a hill in my hometown, and it's called cirrhosis, and I didn't, growing up, I didn't know what cirrhosis was or what it meant, and I just knew that I wanted to live up there because they're like these single bedroom apartments, and I could live by myself and I have my own space, and that's what my idea was. It wasn't until I got older and understood what that meant, but I joke around and say that I wanted to grow up and live on cirrhosis when I was a kid, and by the grace of God, I didn't. My clean date is January 3rd, 2017, so I have a little over 7.5 years. That ain't my original clean date. My original clean date was sometime in 2014. I tried to get clean. I had tried to get clean after a run where my life quickly fell apart. In the 12 steps, the first step says that we admitted we were powerless, and that our lives had become unmanageable. And so early on in my recovery, that was a hard thing for me to admit, because I felt like my life was manageable. I didn't see the destruction of my addiction as unmanageability. I didn't see my incarcerations as a symptom of the unmanageability in my life. My inability to control any usage of any kind, whether it came in a bottle or a bag. I didn't see that as powerlessness, because I always thought that's just who I was, and I had accepted that idea or that image or that personality that was who I was as a person. I had this high level of denial that told me that I didn't have a problem, and it told me that there was nothing wrong with me, but on the other hand, there were moments where all I could think about was what was wrong with me. Why can't I do this? Why can't I keep a job? Why can't I be happy? Why can't I have good relationships with the people in my life? And And so, like I came into recovery, uh, pretty confused about everything, like most of us probably do. What I've learned is I'm not unique and I'm not special, and there was somebody who there's most of us feel that way when we come in, and I'm grateful for that, because if I didn't have somebody when I got to recovery who had been through what I had been through in just different situations, I probably wouldn't have been able to find the freedom that I have today. You know, um, I'm trying not to glamorize that lifestyle, but I've been, just for like identification purposes, like I've been using substances since I was about 13 years old. And I don't say it to brag or boast, but that was the norm, that was the lifestyle, that was what I thought I was supposed to do. And by the time I had turned 18, I was already, I had already dropped out of school when I was like in the 8th grade, had just completely given up on education or any of that stuff. And so by the time I turned 18, I thought that, my life was getting kind of unmanageable, like a lot of the pain that I was feeling. And so I left Mandaree thinking that that was gonna make things better. And actually, I was 16 when I left. It was like a week. It was like a month before I turned 17. I ended up moving to Beulah and lived there. And I thought that things were gonna be different. And what I had found out is that no matter where I go, I'm taking me with me. And I ended up doing the exact same things that I was doing back home on the res. And like I said earlier, I have this high level of denial, and so like I was telling myself, like, it's the people of Beulah's fault. I better just go back home. And so I go back home, and it's more of the same, more of the pain, more of the suffering, more of the insanity of thinking that alcohol is gonna fix me and it's gonna make things better, only to find out that when I wake up, my problems are still there. And so I ended up leaving Mandaree again by the time I was 18, and I came up here to Bismarck. I thought if I moved to big city Bismarck, I'd have better opportunities and I can do things with myself, with my life. And it turns out, no, like I just once again took me with me, and I brought me up here, and I have this, I believe that I have the disease of addiction. I believe that that obsession and compulsion and self-centeredness is it's what ran my life up until I got clean. And I didn't recognize that for what it was. I just thought it was me. I thought I was calling the shots in my life. And so I come up here to Bismarck when I was like 18, and I ended up getting arrested a couple times for like minor consumptions and stuff, and just wandering around town drunk, wandering around, aimlessly lost. And so, I get arrested a couple times, and it's just the compounding like frustration of me not being able to like do the right thing, or what I think is the right thing, led me further down that path of using and drinking. And so eventually I had jumped back and forth from Bismarck to Mandaree to Newtown, back to Beulah, and within a year, and I was kind of like all over the state, and I was pretty lost. I was woke up one morning after a party, and I was vomiting blood, and my answer to that was to continue drinking, and that kind of scared me, so I came back to I left the res, and I came back to Bismarck, and within like 3 months I was arrested. I got arrested for a fight that I had gotten into when I first got up here, and I'm grateful for that, man. Like I'm really grateful that God stepped in and put a stop to my nonsense. When I went to court, the judge said, I'm giving you a 5-year timeout. I ended up doing 5 years in state here, and when I think about that time, and I think about where I'm at today, and how I got to the rooms with my active addiction and my usage of drugs, and I had already talked a little bit about the disease of addiction, and I look back at my time in prison, and I laugh, because like even though like I was removed from society and the drugs were removed from my life, I was still finding things to live in obsession and compulsion. There was a guy who lived across the hall from me in Jamestown at the correctional center over there. He had a little store, and I'd go over there, and I just felt like I was going up to the trap, trying to get a bag. I was trying to get a ramen. I ran up my tab, owed this guy like hundreds of dollars in commissary, and so it's really not about the drugs for me. It's my thinking. It's about the way that I react to life. Um, There's a piece of literature out there that I read that said it was easier for us to change our perception of reality than to change our reality. And what that means to me is that it was easier for me to get high. It was easier for me to use something to change the way that I feel rather than actively try to change something in my life that's gonna, make me actually feel better. Like my living situation, my actual like drug usage and all that stuff. And so, I was doing that in prison, and I didn't recognize that, and when I was getting out of prison, at this point I'd probably gotten a couple of visits the whole 5 years that I was in there. I did 5 years for an assault and a delivery and that were like totally unrelated, but I ended up doing 5 years, 23 days, and I remember they made me do treatment. They did like a 3.5. I don't even know if they use the same scoring thing, but it was like a 3.5 intensive inpatient treatment. But I was like, I was in prison.
I was a 10. No.
I was in prison,
Yeah.
so it's not like I could go anywhere. But so I just did it, man. And I remember like they were trying to tell me that I was I was an alcoholic, that I was a drug addict, and they were trying to like tell me I was these things and I wasn't having it. And I was like, well, I haven't, 4.5, almost 5 years. I haven't used anything. I think I'm cured. I think I'll do
I got
good.
this.
I got this, and and so like I get out of prison and my sister comes and picks me up, and I hadn't seen my sister in over 5.5, maybe 6 years, and so my older sister picks me up. And we're driving to the hotel to go see my mom, my brother, all my siblings, and all I could think about, I wasn't thinking about being free, I wasn't thinking about behaving myself, I wasn't thinking about my mom, I wasn't thinking about any of that stuff. I was trying to figure out what would be the best substance to use so that I wouldn't get caught and get revocated and go back to prison. Like I was trying to game plan in the vehicle, not even off, I wasn't even on 26th Street yet from the pen, and I was already trying to figure out what I could use and how I would use it, and I thought about that all the way to Baymont. That's where my family was staying at, over in Mandan. So all the way from the prison to Baymont, which is like a 20-minute drive, all I could think about was using. Wasn't even excited to see my family, and I think about that and it makes me sad. I missed out on a majority of my life experiencing, happiness and joy, and that's why I'm so grateful today, for my recovery, because I get to experience those things. And so, fast forward a year, in about a year, I'm everybody's mad at me. I'm strung out, holed up in a hotel room. My mom, my sister, and her husband had to come get me out of the hotel room. And I remember I was trying to explain to my mom, because I had cracked the code. I found out why things were the way they were, and I had sheets of paper with, their chicken scratch all over them. And I told my mom I was deciphering things, and that Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where the guy's looking at the board with all the lines.
Yeah.
I felt like that guy, cigarette out of my mouth, eyes all bloodshot, just like, this is what's going on. None of it was real, and I just remember my mom looking at me, and she was crying, and she asked me, can you just stop? Can you just stop? And she said, stop it, and kind of knocked me out of it for a second, and I got on my knees, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me, Mom. It was meth. It was meth.
Yeah.
And so, but my mom was crying, asking me to stop, and I don't remember what happened, but I remember just agreeing to go with them, and they took me to treatment. I went to Heartview, um, and prior to them doing this, they were trying to get me to go to treatment for like a month, and I kept giving everybody the runaround, and so I finally went, and I kind of want to share this piece real quick. There's this, so that whole time I was in that hotel, I was on the 24/7 program, and I had to go down to the police department and I had to blow and this kind of relates to the first step, about being powerlessness, and I didn't recognize this till like way later, I was using and I wasn't sleeping, and I was going down to the police department, and I was doing breathalyzers, and I was progressively getting worse, and every morning and every evening I would wish that they would just arrest me so that I could stop, but I couldn't make the decision on my own to ask for help or to stop, and so eventually, that's where my mom and them had to come get me and take me to treatment, and even then, like, I didn't want to stop, man. Like, I wanted to try to figure out a way for me to, like, use successfully, like so many of us do in recovery, and
Yeah.
so I go to treatment, and I kind of stayed clean for like a year. I say kinda because I was coming to meetings. I wasn't getting arrested. I wasn't, I was living alone, so I was like isolated a lot, and I was using over the counter stuff to feel something, but not really feel something. I would rationalize that, like, I need this stuff to make myself feel better, because I was smoking like 2 packs a day, and I would do a little cough, so I'd go to Walmart and buy something, and I would take all of it, and I was telling myself that I'm in control, I'm not using, and eventually I started using every day, and I started drinking every day. I stopped coming to meetings, and at the end of my relapse, the night before I got clean, I don't really remember what happened, but I remember wanting to kill myself. I remember wanting to go in the kitchen and grab a knife, and I'm grateful that my girlfriend was able to hold me down in the bedroom. She drugged me onto the bed, and I woke up the next morning and she was still holding on to me, and she wouldn't let me go. And I remember telling her, like, I'm okay. I got, and she still wouldn't let me go. I firmly believe that if I had been alone, or if she had let me go into the kitchen, I probably would have harmed myself, or both of us, and I woke up, and like I knew I had to do something, or I was gonna die, either by my own hands, or I was gonna continue down that path of jails and institutions and death. Like I would, I already experienced going to prison. I already experienced, my active addiction. I was kind of like, either I'm gonna get clean, or I'm just gonna kill myself, And so I sat around all day, hung over, whatever, and I go to my first meeting. That was January 3rd, 2017. I go to my first meeting, and I get there, and they're closing it up, and I didn't go inside. I just looked in the window, and I went and jumped in my truck, and I white knuckled it another day. I got my white key tag the next night though, and I felt like that little chubby guy on the Goonies. I was doing this and I was doing that. I was just sitting there crying, just telling everybody in detail about how I relapsed. And I think I needed that initial batch of honesty, not just with other people, but with myself. I had finally admitted that I had a problem and I needed help. And and so I called my sponsor after the meeting, and he said he was still around, still clean, and so we started working the 12 steps, and we started getting after it, and at about 18 months clean, well, actually, at about 5 months clean, I thought it was a good idea to go back to go to school. I've never been to college. I dropped down the 8th grade, got my GED while I was incarcerated. So I'm clean now. Things are going good. I did a 90 and 90 a couple times. And so I was like, I could do anything. And so I applied to college, knowing that I was gonna get denied because of my criminal history. Got denied. Cried around on Facebook. Somebody hit me up like, hey, we'll help you out. I was a part of that reentry program from back home, the 21st century reentry program. 21st, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they helped me. You know, they I don't know if they're still doing their thing or not, but they helped guide me back into the right direction. You know, I was about to get loaded, and I got into college. You know, and it was like the first time in my life that people actually believed in me and were willing to help me, and so I felt a lot of pressure to do that, and so I did the best that I could. I ended up going to school for welding, um, graduated from United Tribes Technical College, and funny thing is that like a week before graduation, I got a call saying, "Hey, interviews are on this day. Be here at 8 o'clock in the morning." And I was like, "Who is this?" You know, I was like, turns out I had met a guy at a meeting somewhere, and I had shared about wanting to be a welder.
Yeah.
He took my number, and I don't even remember giving it to him, because you know we're kind of taught in recovery to get numbers and give our number out and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so like I totally forgot I had given this guy my number, and he passed along. And so this guy called me and said, "Hey, interviews are at this time." Turns out it was the Ironworker Union.
Wow.
And I was like, "All right, I'll be there." And found out that the interviews were the same day as graduation. And so I go to interview, and I'm the only guy dressed in a suit and tie. I was getting ready to go graduate.
Yeah.
A real fancy suit on and a red tie, you know. And I go walking into this building, and there's a bunch of guys wearing like construction boots and
Yeah.
blue collar men, you know,
Yeah.
like hardworking men, and they're all looking at me like, "Who the heck's this guy?" You know. And I just felt so out of place, and I sat down, and they're like, you know, like they asked me like, "Oh, you interviewed 2 years ago. What happened?" And I was like, "I went back to prison." You know, told them the truth,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "But I'm in recovery now. Obviously, you know, like I'm trying to do better, and that's why." I just straight up told him. I just said, I don't even know how I got here. I don't even know how I got this interview, but
Yeah.
but I've been trying my best. You know,
Yeah.
I'm finishing this. I'm graduating today, and they decided to. I was the last guy that they took in that day, and out of all of us that came in, I think I was the only one. There was like 15 of us that came in, and there was 2 of us that graduated from that class.
Yeah.
And so, you know, like I never really had blue collar experience. It turns out I don't know how. I can't weld. I'm not a good welder. I never actually became a good welder. I completed the course, whatever, and so I started this apprenticeship, and I ended up doing the ironworker apprenticeship. It was a 3-year apprenticeship. I stayed. You know, I technically I am a journeyman, journeyman ironworker, JIW.
Yeah.
With the local 512 ironworkers. But over the last couple of years, some changes have happened in my life, you know, and so I'm no longer doing that. But I'm gonna go back a couple of years, like during that apprenticeship, 2020 or 2020, December 2020. You know, I was coming up on what is that, almost 4 years clean, and that December my mom passed away, and I remember she got sick, and so I was visiting her every night after work, and I thought it was just gonna be another one of those she's in the hospital, she gets better, she goes home type of things. Me and my fiance at the time had already discussed we were gonna make her come live with us, and she had other plans. You know, she ended up passing away in the hospital, and I remember just being real like I was in a lot of pain. My mom passed away, and so, but if it wasn't for the fellowship, if it wasn't for my relationship with my creator, like I wouldn't have been able to go through that, you know. And a year and a day later, you know, I was back at work. I was at work the whole time, but I was working. I was exactly a year and a day later, my sister called me and said, she called me and said, you know, your niece had a baby. Need you to go get her. She's in the hospital. Need to take you to go see him in Bismarck. And I was at work, and I was trying to make excuses like, I got, you know, it's winter time. That's my last job before I go on layoff, and all these excuses. And she was like, okay. And And so I call my sponsor because when major decisions
Yeah.
happen, we're supposed to call our sponsors and stuff and call people in the program. Not supposed to go into life, It's
Head on.
easy, yeah, head on and make, it's
Yeah.
easy for me to make decisions. So I need help from other people, and so called my sponsor. He told me to pray about it, and I sat down after I got home that night, and I talked to my fiance at the time, and I was like, this is what's going on. My niece needs our help, and she's like, yeah, let's do it. If you can get time off work, let's help her out. And so um, I was still on the fence about it. I woke up the next morning and I prayed. I was driving back and forth from Bismarck to Minot every day, and so I woke up 5:30 that morning. It was about 5, and started praying, and I ended up getting my vehicle, driving to Minot, and I was still praying, and I got over there by Cole Harbor, and I remember the whole trip. I was thinking, your will, not mine. Guide me in my life and help me make this decision. And I just heard my mom's voice say, "Oh, my baby grandsons," 'cause I remember how she'd always talk to the little ones, and I heard her voice like clear as day, um, like she was, like I felt like she was in the car with me, and I just like pulled over and started crying. I get to work, they give me time off, and I go get my niece. Fast forward about 3 months, um, my my great nephew, my grandson in the Hidatsuwe, my niece's son, he was 3 months premature, and so he was just getting out of the hospital at 3 months on his he spent a lot of time in the hospital, and so he had a lot of health issues, and so we decided that for his benefit and to help him, like we would keep him here in Bismarck, and that was what the decision was made. And so me and my wife, or my fiance at the time, brought him home with us, and he was on oxygen, and it was like real scary, and that was 2.5 years ago. No, yeah, 2.5 years ago that was, and now he's 2.5. He's I'm a stay-at-home dad. I've been raising him, taking care of him, learning how to break all those curses, those generational traumas, and not pass them on. Like,
Oh yeah.
Like a gentle parent.
Yeah.
It's so weird, like one of the things that my wife, talks about is, let's try to be what we needed growing up, and
Right.
and so that's my plan of action for
Oh,
today
yeah.
is be what I needed as a kid, for this little man. And I got married. What was that? 2022, May 2022. Baby Melvin was like 5 months old, 6 months old. We got married, and he was at the wedding. He was on his little oxygen tank in the back with our relatives while we were up there getting married. And like I said earlier, I've been a stay-at-home dad. I'm also I started a company last December, last winter before Christmas, around Christmas time. I'm really good with using tools and following plans and making things, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I like to learn new things, and so I started a company, and it's called Medicine Horse Creations. I don't know where it's gonna go. Like I started off making charcuterie boards. I'm getting ready to build a TV console now. I don't know if I'm gonna be like a big contractor someday, or if just
I can put your information down in the description. So if you guys want to check out his company, it'll be in the description.
yeah. And so yeah, thank you. I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't know if where my life is taking me exactly. I just try to do what has been taught to me in the program, and one of the things that hasn't changed, or that has been a consistent thing in my recovery, though, is sponsorship and service work, and trying to carry this message. I have a home group. I go there every week as best as I can when my life permits it, and I had a really busy summer, and so like I missed about a month of my home group. I also take meetings in the treatment facilities for a 12-step program, and I try to practice these principles in all my affairs, man. I try to live life God-centered today. I don't want to burn my life down today. I get to show up for, not even just myself or my wife, but like for anybody that's in my life. Um, because when I got here, I didn't have anything, and recovery has allowed me to, build up a life for myself where I actually enjoy living it. And so, yeah, I think that's all I got.
Hell yeah. So I had a question for you. What is your perception of a higher power?
Higher power?
Yeah.
So it's always been kind of like, well, when I was trying to figure that out, so when I was in prison, when I was 18, I started going to sweat. But I was going to sweat with like Lakotas and not people from back home, and so like I always, I started calling it Conchula, and so I just.
Is that like a Sioux word or something?
That's a Lakota word.
Lakota, yeah.
Yeah, and
okay.
so, and so like that's what I pray to. That's the words that I use because that's how they taught me how to pray when I was in prison. But prison isn't really a place where you're gonna have consistent teachings like that.
Yeah.
So like and I never grew up traditional or nothing. But today in recovery, like when I first got here, like I didn't know what to do because I felt like I had failed so much in my life. You know? And so it went from being spiritual principles like honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, because that sounded like something I could grasp onto, to being whatever's out there. But today I have an active. It's basically been the same since I got clean because I've been going to sweat and trying to pray in that way. And so I do some other things today, some other practices that allow me to have a good connection, but it's basically Creator.
Yeah.
And
okay.
There was a time where I was trying to overcomplicate it, and I just surrendered to the idea that whatever my ancestors prayed to that allowed me to be here today, like that was like the thing that like sunk in for me was, however many generations ago when everything was going south for our people, those prayers that they prayed, whoever they were praying to, even though I didn't have a good relationship with that or have any of the teachings, like whatever that is, I hope that's what's guiding me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So do you believe in like positive energies? Do you believe in energies and stuff like that? I mean, do you believe a person can change a room by just coming into it? That kind of energy.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah, especially when I'm angry. No.
Yeah. Change the whole.
Yeah, like that's I love people like that, man.
Yeah.
There's people that will walk into a room and the whole atmosphere will change.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like the atmosphere. So you totally believe in all that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the energies.
Yeah, like I don't want to say like I'm an empath or whatever, but like because I don't know if I am, but I just know that sometimes some of my friends, like it's so weird. Like I have a friend, she always comes up to me, she's like, "Give me a mish." And I was like, a mish. She's like, mush me back together. And I'm like, all right. And so like, I give her a big, we hug.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's so emotional.
Wow.
And so like, it's I don't know. Like, and I feel better. She feels better.
Exactly.
And she's like my sister in recovery, and.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I totally relate to that. I think we, a lot of us develop that, and I think what that feeling is, it's not just empath, but it's empathy.
Empathetic.
Empathy, because we identify, especially in the rooms, we all have experienced so much pain, and we all get happy kind of as we go through this process, and so it's that, it goes back to that thing, you spot it, you got it.
Yeah,
exactly. And you see somebody happy and you're like, oh, I'm happy too now, I'm excited to see this guy. And yeah.
Or if you just judge somebody, oh, that fucker's all pissed. Sorry, he's all pissed off or something, probably because you're all pissed off.
Yeah.
You spot it, you got it kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's, that spot it, you got it, can hurt your feelings sometimes, You're sitting there judging somebody and like, oh, this guy don't know what he's doing.
Exactly.
Just because I don't know what I'm doing,
Look in, instead of looking out,
What is that saying? What is it that I see in you, that I see in me, that I don't like about me?
Yeah.
And it happens,
Yeah.
But I try to look for the good in people, like what is it that you're doing that I want for me in my life?
Exactly.
And I try to surround myself with those types of people. It's kind of why I joined the Knights.
Yeah.
It's because I need it. I seen the way that everybody was moving and how they were acting and the things that they were doing for the community,
Did you go to a retreat in Arizona yet?
No, I haven't.
No, you should. I mean, I went last April. You know, I was all busted up, but I still went. You know, I was all big and heavy. I barely fit in April. Long story short, I went down there. You know, because they're like, you know, you need to go. You need to go. It's so cool. It's so awesome. So I was like, all right, I'll go. I'll go. You guys shut the hell up. You know, and I'll go. So I went. I flew down there, and man, it was so amazing. Like, I honest to God cried 3 times.
Yeah.
Just a room full of men, and we just all just connected. Like, I cried.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, man, it just came out, and I was like, I know I wasn't the only one crying.
Yeah.
It was just so powerful. The Knights of the Round Table Arizona retreat. That's badass, man. But yeah, it was so powerful.
Yeah, I cried my eyes out at the one up here.
Did you?
Year. Yeah, there was a few times where it just hit me. You know?
Yeah. It's so powerful.
You know, because when I got clean, I share about this sometimes in meetings. I don't know if you've ever been in one, but like when I got clean, it was, you know, there was not even a handful of us natives that were in the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and again, someone would come in and, you know, go to treatment or whatever, and they come to meetings. But when I went to treatment, I got out and I was continuously coming to meetings, and there was like me and Frank B.
Yeah.
And we were at the men's retreat last year, and we were talking about it. We were like, man, remember when it was just me and you? And I was like, oh man, yeah, I remember. Like,
Yeah.
remember all that crying we did? Yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that's what it felt like, man. I felt so alone, you know. 'Cause this disease will tell me that nobody understands me. You know, like I had to get past that and let somebody help me that wasn't native. But like being in the rooms today here in Bismarck is such a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, watching people come in and they're, you know, they're from the same town that I'm from, or the same res, and you know, recovery has taught me like how to practice, you know, everybody being equal and stuff. And so like I kind of stopped seeing like races a long time ago, and stopped trying to, you know, use other people's races against them because of what was my experience was in the past with other races and stuff. And so, but yeah, it's such a beautiful thing today to be able to like identify on a deeper level, you know, not just us being an addict, but like culturally and where we grew up and where we're from and stuff, and watch like all of us over there.
Yeah, it's like we gotta put up that front to be tough, you know. Whatever, man, you know. But anyway, I remember coming here and I first got into recovery and going to the rooms and like people just welcoming me with open arms, literally. Give me a hug, bro. I don't want to shake your hand. I'm like, yeah. You know, I just felt weird. And then they're like, love you, bro. And I'm like, okay. Cool.
Pretty sure it was me.
Yeah,
I'm always hugging.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was just weird. It's like, and then now I'm that dude.
Yeah.
You know, come here, give me a hug, man. I don't need to shake your hand. Love you, bro.
Yeah, when I came to the room, I was fresh out of prison. And so like, or I was like a year out of prison. And a guy tried to hug me, and I like stiff armed him. Like, whoa, what are you trying to do? He's like, welcome. Just want to say welcome, man.
Toe punch.
It's like, what do you say? He's like, I'd shake your hand, but I don't know where your hands have been. And I was like, got so offended.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he was just like, oh, it's just a joke. You know, and I go to, you know, I go to the program where the hugs are kind of the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, we hug here, and he said, welcome, and he hugged
awesome.
me, and I did not want to be in that hug, man.
Yeah.
Like he squeezed me so tight, and I was just like, oh, you know, like what do I do? And I just after coming to a few meetings, you know, it kind of, you know, I recognized that like, hey, these guys are genuine.
Yep.
A lot of those guys that were there to meet me at my first meeting are the same guys that helped me through all of my ups and downs. You know, and you know, I see you doing that with people in the rooms, and I see you being there for people, and you know, with some of the things that we do in the nights, you know, and it's like. Your sponsees, and you get to watch them grow, and
it's awesome, man.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, do you have any shout outs? Do you like to hit anybody up out there?
I don't know, just my siblings, you know, Joseph, Elena, Greg, sister Daisy, just my family, you know, my wife, Marie, you know. Big shout out to my wife, man. You know, I wouldn't have the level of freedom from self that I have today if it wasn't for her loving me in all my painful moments. You know, and she probably won't even see this. I have to send her the link. she doesn't have Facebook. She does. She does love YouTube though, so I'll send her the link.
Awesome, yeah.
But yeah, my wife, my family, man, my fellowship, you know, everybody in the rooms, man, like like I said earlier, I felt like I was the only native a lot of times.
Yeah.
And seeing all the brothers and sisters, not just from our tribe, but from everywhere,
Yeah.
find recovery. So I guess I want to give a shout out to all the Native Americans and that are chasing recovery. You know, trying to do this thing, you know, a day at a time.
Oh yeah.
You know,
That's awesome.
so just big shout out to them. Even if they got one day, man.
Oh yeah.
Even if they got
1
no
hour,
days.
man.
Even if they're, you know, even if they're using right now, watching this video, hopefully they made it to the end. You know,
It can be done.
can be done, man. You know, I'm just a little. I dropped out, my 7th grade dropout. You know, convicted felon. You know, needle using, blackout drunk. You know,
Oh, yeah.
that's those things that I identified myself as all of my life. Like that's the person that I was before I got here. Today I get to be a loving, caring, kind friend. You know, a good father. Or I don't even want to say I'm a good father. Like I don't even know if I'm a good father. It's kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
But you know, I tried my best to do
Yeah.
my best.
Oh yeah. That's all that matters. Yeah. If you guys watch this video this long, I am not the recovery warrior. I call my channel the recovery warrior because we are all warriors in recovery. You know, everybody, the brothers and sisters that I have on, you, the viewers out there, you know, if you are in recovery, you're just starting out, you are the warrior. You know, you will find out that we have to fight this battle every day, seconds and inches. Like Vinny was saying, an hour of sobriety, a minute of sobriety. As long as you're sober, you know, there's a chance. And that's just an awesome feeling. That's why I started this channel. You know, I let people tell their story, tell their turmoil, tell their wonderful life of being in recovery. You know, I'm not so much as the podcast format. If you guys are wondering why I don't cut them off, my guests, I let them tell their side of the story, which is awesome, you know, because I want to hear it too. I'm pretty sure you guys want to hear it. So I just came up with the name Recovery Warrior. There are a couple channels out there, but I am the Recovery-Warrior. So I'm just putting this word out here. I'm just trying to pass this message. I'm not asking for nothing in return. I'm just now starting to get merchandise. I got shirts, I got stickers, you know. I got this one made for myself just for promotion, you know. But, you know, just hearing people's stories, especially like Vinny's, you know, where we come from, the reservations, you know, where addiction is rampant, you know, that's basically all we know. And there is a turning point in our life where we have like it's like a psychic change. You know, it's pretty powerful. I mean, there's a lot to it, but there also is, it's so simple to do, you know, to just stay sober and stay in recovery. But you need help. Honestly, I needed help. I needed to find a higher power. That's why I asked Vinny about the higher power, you know, because it interests me of what people perceive as a higher power, you know. And without that higher power, I am lost, you know. I'm nothing. So, yeah, man. Thank you, Vinny, for being on. Love you, bro.
Love you too.
I like that, man.
Thanks for having me.
For you guys who are just now, you know, getting on this channel and wondering who I am, if you like what you see, hit that like, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe. And with that, we will pass. Love you. Bye.